Hi, everyone. This is Scott with Clientwise, and today I'm going to take you through the timeline feature of Clientwise. The timeline is one of my very favorite features of the program. It is a great way to understand clients' cases quickly, to understand the history of the case, as well as the evidence available to prove the history. And it's also a great way to help others understand my clients' cases, as well as the evidence available to prove the history of their cases. So here we have a fictitious client named Wiley Apple. Wiley is married to Shirley. Shirley has filed for divorce. They have some custody issues, and they also have some separate property issues. Now, Wiley, as my client, when I created his file, received an email inviting him to the portal, and he was guided through the portal when he got there to go ahead and supply this information. So let's see how that's done. So if we go down to the bottom right-hand corner, we see this add, this new event button. And when Wiley clicks this button, he gives the event a title. He then gives the event a date, and he gives the rest of the story for the event and the description. Finally, he gives the event a category, whether it's property, children, court actions, that sort of thing. And that essentially assigns a color to the event, so that as we're scrolling through longer timelines, we can focus on what we're looking at, whether that's property or child custody issues. He then submits the event, and it creates the event in the timeline. Wiley's then encouraged to come back and update events as his case goes on. Now, Wiley can create events, or the legal team, the lawyer, the paralegals, anyone on the legal team can also create events. It's really a collaborative effort building out this case. Now, as we go down the timeline, we can see that Wiley's first child was born in 2013. We can see that they quickly purchased a residence before their marriage, which we see right here. So we have a separate property issue. Since this paperclip is highlighted in green, we can see that Wiley has chosen to upload some evidence. So here we have the warranty deed for the residence that he purchased. We also have the check for the down payment. All right, moving on, we also see that the money moved from residence to residence. They rolled the money from the New York residence into a Texas residence. They had two other children born. Wiley inherited some money from his grandparents. And then, of course, we get to some of the less savory facts, as we sometimes have in our cases, often have in our cases. And as clients will often do, Wiley has uploaded some evidence of Shirley having another relationship. And of course, as we know, a lot of this evidence consists of text messages. And Wiley has chosen to attach text messages to these events to prove his side of those events. We'll see that there was a bad incident between Wiley and his wife, and Wiley showing us that it resulted in some broken dishes. And we saw that there was another text message as well related to that event. Clientwise is also really effective in understanding the procedural history of a case. And here we have the temporary orders. And if we click here, we can see the temporary orders and review them. The procedural history of this case is relatively short, as the divorce is young. But for cases where the case has been in the court system for a long time, the timeline is just invaluable for really understanding, especially complex procedural histories. Now, at some point, we will often want to share the timeline with an important third party, whether that's a guardian ad litem, an attorney ad litem, a mediator, or a judge. And so what we're going to typically do then is we're going to duplicate the timeline. And so we click this button over here. I've already duplicated this timeline. I've called it a GAL timeline, which is short for guardian ad litem. And I'm usually going to go through and I'm going to edit the events. So I'm going to edit the events so that it appropriate for whoever I'm sending it to. Maybe Wiley has said something about Shirley that I don't want a third party to see, or perhaps there are events that are just not relevant to their role. So I'm going to edit the timeline, and then I'm going to send it. So I go over here, I click share timeline, I put in their email. They're going to receive an email that's going to give them a very, very limited view of only that timeline and the evidence that is attached to that timeline. Now, everything in Clientwise is encrypted. They can't go anywhere else in the client's file, of course. They're limited in what they can see. But that is a really effective way, and they can come back. They can come back, and especially for an ad litem, third party working on the case for the benefit of the children. It's really effective when they want to go back and they want to review the case. Maybe, a lot of the people that we deal with have a lot of cases. So they go back to our timeline and they're reviewing the case so that they can understand it. And of course, they're also going to see it from our client's perspective. When we're ready, and if we're going through discovery, or if we need to download all the files from this timeline, they're already pre-organized, just naturally pre-organized. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit this download file button to download the files. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And when I open this up, it's organized by event. So we'll see all the events that had files attached to them. So for example, as we recall, there was a bad incident. We click on that event and we see the picture of the broken dishes and we see the text about the broken dishes. We can go event by event, but the evidence is already pre-organized by event and by issue. If we want to print the timeline, we just click this button down here to print a copy of the timeline. Maybe we have someone who isn't so technologically savvy, doesn't have or doesn't want to go through a portal to view the timeline. So what we can do is we can print the timeline and we can download the files for them so that they can view it that way. So those are the main features of the timeline. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email. Our email is at the bottom of our website. Thanks.